Good morning. Good morning. I'm audible, I'm visible. Yes. Great. Good morning. Good morning. 1 second. I'm just switching off one light. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. We'll wait for 2-3 minutes for everybody to join in. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. So, the last week with me, the last week for art and culture, and we will have a very interesting discussion throughout the day today, which is that we'll start with sculpture. I'm waiting for everybody to join in and we'll start. We'll start with sculpture, very interesting topic. Thereafter, once we've discussed this whole section of sculpture, we will move to School of Art being the most important. Thereafter, we'll move to dances and music and festivals. That is our next subsection. We'll do these previous year questions also. So we'll now move to smaller topics, the three small topics thereafter. And then once we've covered dance, festival, puppetry, we'll go into even smaller topics, which is very simply the concept of we have to go through all of these things. Thereafter, once festival is over, we will move to martial arts and theater, music, martial arts and handicrafts. So you can see now we are moving out of that big subsection, very big subsection, and three major thematics we have. One would be the festival, dance, and puppetry section. And thereafter, we will have the next most important area, which is going to be handicraft, theater, music, and martial arts. And we should be listening to music today as a part of the process to understand music, what is improvisation, what is repetition. And over and above that, we will also try to develop a certain habit, because as a UPSC aspirant, you have to write hobbies in your what we call as the interview or the personality test, and therefore you should know or should have an idea about basic music which the board would like. So that is the way we will go about it. So we have these for today. Tomorrow I'll bring Nitin Singhania with me, and very simply, yes, Ankit, perfect. We will have Nitin Singhania. I'll get Nitin Singhania with me. The smaller topics again, UNESCO, World Heritage, where there is an update with regards to the Chanakeshwara temple and what we were discussing. Shanti Niketan will discuss intangible, tangible. We'll discuss the other smaller topics, and we'll discuss the current affairs as of right now. For example, what are the symbolism which were there in G20 and the whole UNESCO update with regards to other smaller topics also. So by Sunday evening, we'll be doing current affairs, and we'll also do the mains questions which are relevant for your preparation. And very simply, we will close art and culture by tomorrow 8 p.m. Today we have started early because of the issue which came last week, and therefore I have taken 1 hour extra so that we can go at a good pace and generally cover everything in the right time. So in the last week, we have covered and we have very simply done architecture as a very big topic, then paintings, Bhakti Sufi has also been done. So the big three are done. The next is this sculpture section, and thereafter your big four are done. Once your big four are done, we will, as I said, festivals, thereafter the handicrafts, and I'm going to do something right now which I should tell you also. So first things first, is everybody here? Everybody is ready? Can we start our discussion for today? Yes? We waited for 8 to 9 minutes for everybody to come through. Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Now, when we talk about art and culture, there are certain areas which are in which you can expect mains plus PT questions, and there are certain areas which are purely prelims oriented, and you should have an idea about it. Where can they ask questions from mains and PT both, and prelims more towards prelims? In a rare case, very rare case, you can get a mains question. Very rare case. Now, let's talk about the mains plus PT areas. For example, architecture, paintings, sculpture, Bhakti Sufi. Thereafter, you have dances. You can get a question, for example, out of foreign travelers. You can have question from literature. You can have question from 6 schools of philosophy, which we do tomorrow. Thereafter, you also have questions from the concept of numismatics. You can have questions from the areas such as importance and conservation of art and culture. You further can expect questions, very generic questions, about periods and their contribution. The numismatics means study of coins. You can also get questions from science and technology. You can, and this year the question came, you can get questions from Buddhism and Jainism, which we've already covered in ancient India. So you can see that the questions here are both mains and prelims. These are heavy topics. Prelims topics would be a little bit more open, which would be, for example, festivals, handicrafts, GI tags, thereafter theater, martial arts, thereafter music comes in between. Music, you can get both. Then when we have martial arts, we further can have topics such as what we call as classical music, classical language, cultural institutions. UNESCO, you can expect both, but we put it here only. UNESCO World Heritage, tangible and intangible. Then further, any other small topic which comes to your mind: martial arts, handicraft, theater, folk music, folk dance. The purpose of this discussion, puppetry, sure. Aman, see, there are 2-3 topics which you can stay away from. Cinema, circus are topics which you don't need to care about. As it is, life has become a circus. So why need to go through this whole circus thing? UPSC, in very rare case, will ask you a question from circus. They have much better questions to ask than actually ask circus. Cinema, the same thing. If you can go through that chapter, sure, totally your call. When I'll bring Nitin Singhani, I'll tell you what chapters not to read. So don't worry. 4 chapters I say to read, and 4 chapters are which I actually omit. I don't ask you to read generally. So personalities means what? That is current affairs. Current affairs can be either way. Current affairs. You mean by personalities current affairs. Any other topic which comes to your mind? Any other topic which comes to your mind, which you want to ask other than these? These are smaller other topics: classical language, languages, this and that. Religions in India, for example, is a random topic which Nitin Singhania has added, makes no sense. Epigraphy, he's added a new chapter in this fourth edition. Again, we've done it, and epigraphy is more a ancient medievalist topic than actually an art and culture topic. So, what I'm trying to argue here is a very simple, straightforward point. Students, what they do is they tend to judge this part as what we call as core art and culture, but actually that isn't the case. The core art and culture is this part, and here the prelims part is where you have to learn a lot of things. But in the mains plus PT part, you don't have to learn, you have to understand. We've already gone through architecture, painting, Bhakti Sufi. We will today do sculpture. We'll also do dances. We'll also do music. We will also do the issues related to importance and conservation of art and culture. And very simply, we will then move to the prelims part. There was a question on cloth. Which question on cloth? Clothes. Which clothes? Like these. We'll talk about the Hoysaleshwara's, the addition into tangible heritage. We'll discuss that. That is a separate issue altogether. See, what I'm trying to give you here is a basic overview, because you don't need to tend to get caught up in the prelims part and actually jeopardize your mains part. Mains is equally important, and this part is 60. This part is 40. So the part which is above me is 40% of the syllabus, or 30% in that regard. That is the one which is actually 70%. And you have to concentrate on this. That is why you see, for 1 week, one whole weekend, we went through architecture, painting, Bhakti Sufi, because that was a heavy section. Now, if we understand the division, can we start sculpture? Yes? No? Yes. Anybody has any issue? I will bring Nitin Singhania with me tomorrow. I will show you the chapters. We will discuss how to look at it, what to do with Nitin Singhania also. So don't have to worry with regards to that. Yes. Come on. First hour. Last 2 days of art and culture. Okay. Now, let's talk about sculpture. No doubt, sir. Perfect. Anybody wants to call? Anybody wants to ask anything generally? I'm giving you a general call for questions. If you don't have a question, that's a good thing. But if you want to ask a question till this point, sculpture is the new topic we start. Last week we stopped at paintings and we tried to understand paintings, and before that the concept itself. Yes? Okay. Now, sculpture. The first question would be, what is sculpture? So sculpture generally is the expression of art in statues and figures. They could be made out of multiple type of sources. Terracotta, you can have steatite. Steatite is something which was used quite a lot in the Harappan civilization. It's called soapstone. Very soft stone, but very good to carve. It could be in marble. It could be in sandstone generally. It could be in multiple types of clay, etc. It could be copper. It could be iron. It could be any metal. What I mean to say is that any form of statues or figurines which we find are part of this larger concept of sculpture. Sculpture is an expression of that only. So art and aesthetics, when represented in sculpture, is going to be a very important source because they tell us the real picture of that period. Now, our story with regards to sculpture starts at the Harappan civilization. Starts at the Harappan civilization. Why do I start at Harappan civilization and not before it or after it? Why do I start before at Harappan civilization? Harappan civilization is not iron. Avni, no iron, copper, archaeological remains. Other than that, first urbanization, nothing gets previously. Now see, point is, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, we find lot of tools. We find a lot of tools, but Harappan civilization is when I was looking for a word in which art has an expression in the form of craft specialization. Craft specialization. Wherein you have multiple types of crafts which are developed. So from, for example, copper objects to bronze objects. What I mean to say is that when we talk about Harappan civilization, what we call it is there is a diversity in expression and material. So you have copper objects, you have bronze objects, you have terracotta, you have ceatite, and that is not just the case. We have also multiple form of expressions. We have seals, we have jewelry, we have figurines or figures, we have statues, we have everyday objects. What I mean to say is that the material is diverse and its expression is also diverse. So we have copper objects, but they represent everyday form also, they represent seals also, they represent jewelry also, they represent figurines, statues. It is a conglomeration. It is a beautiful expression of what we call as craft specialization and craft diversity. Craft specialization and craft diversity. So the question which can come from this section will be based on the fact that where do we call or where do we see craft specialization, or what is the craft diversity of Harappan civilization. If you remember, we've done Harappa in first context architecture, then we did not pick it up in paintings, but now we are doing Harappan civilization as the starting point when it comes to our sculptures. So first point, do you understand why are we starting here and what is the reason for this to be the starting point? You understand that? Yes, that there is diversity of material and there is diversity of expression. Both are very important in that regard. Both are very important in that regard. So let's start our first important expression, which is related to the Harappas, and that is Harappan civilization, or what we also call as Indus Valley civilization. We have what we call as bronze and copper objects. This is going to be our first expression. Now in this we have multiple examples. You know about the bronze dancing girl coming out of Mohenjo-daro. very beautifully shown in the G20 also. You also have copper objects of day to day living. You have copper toys. You have bronze statues. And just to give you a taste of it, these are the types of objects which we see. The dancing girl coming out of the Mohenjo-daro sector. This is a copper vessel. These are called copper toys. So you have a copper. How do we know it is copper? Can anybody tell me? How do we know it is copper? Come on, use your science and technology mind. How is it copper? Very good, Subhash. Good, Neha. Great. Yes, Tabina. Very good, Nitin. Very good, Himanshu. The green color. Copper, when it oxidizes, copper oxide is green in color. And that is why this is copper. And that is why if you see this, the bronze dancing girl, because by making an alloy, you stop rusting, she is not green. But this is a pure green object because of the fact that it is pure copper in that regard. Now, if you look at it, this shows everyday form of living. This shows everyday form of living. And for example, the bull, women being part of the agricultural cycle are something which are represented in these statues itself. Now the question is, how were they made? But how were they made? And in this comes a very important technique which you know as Sir Pardue method, or what is called the lost wax technique, or the Sir Pardue method. And the beauty of the lost wax technique is that it starts in the Harappan period. And what we will see is that as late as the imperial Chola, as late as the imperial Chola period, we will see the lost wax technique to be there. So the lost wax technique, first expression we see in 2600 BCE, and as late as in the 1000 CE period, we will see the lost wax technique being used. That is why this technique is considered important generally for your preparation. And what is it about this that it is so common or so easy that it persists for close to 3000 4000 years? Now let's try to understand how does the lost wax technique work. Would you like to know it? How does it work? You don't have to learn it, but it's a very interesting thing. And why do we call it lost wax? The name you will understand from the process itself. From the process itself, you will realize why it is called lost wax technique. See, what is done is that you take an object. For example, I have to make this object. So what I will do is that I will make a wax model of this object. I made a wax model of this object. Now what I will do, I will then surround this object with clay. So I will take clay, I will take clay and put this object in it. And put this object in it. Now, what I've done is that I have surrounded it with wax, with clay. Now, this is first, this is second. Third thing which I will do is that I'll take this model and now put it under a flame. Now, put it under a flame. What happens to wax when it is heated? What happens to wax when it is heated? It melts. Very good. So now what I will do is that I'll take this part and I will pour out the melted wax. And what I will be left with will be something like this. Will left with something like this. Yes, what I'm left with is clay which has hardened and a empty space which represents the shape of the wax model which I put through. And now what I will do, I will pour the copper inside it. I will pour the copper inside it. So I will pour copper inside it. And I will let it solidify. And later then I will break the clay. And what I will be left with is a copper object out of this. Now are you getting it? Why it is called lost wax technique? Because the wax in this is lost, or the wax model in the process of making it is removed from the mold itself. So if I have to make this pen, I will make a wax model of this pen with all the contours I need. I will put it into clay. Then I will heat the clay so the wax will melt. I will then remove the wax. Now I have a mold of this pen. I will pour the copper, let it solidify. Then I will have a copper object. This is what this also shows you. That you make an object, put it into clay, heat it, remove the clay, remove the wax, then pour your metal, and what you get is a metal object. Now it's very easy to make these very big standard big objects. Imagine that this whole thing has been made by lost wax technique. The level of technique, the level of craftsmanship which would be needed to make these through lost wax technique, which is that they were making models very closely to the scale itself and then putting them into the clay and then pouring copper into it. This is a method which is very simple, but in most of South India till today, a lot of our casting technique is based on lost wax technique. And a lot of objects which are made today of bronze and copper are made by this whole concept itself. So now nobody is going to ask you how the lost wax technique works, but do you understand that why is it called lost wax? So that you never forget it generally. Are we clear with regards to the why it is called lost wax? Yes? Okay. Now, the first expression as we see is copper objects, bronze objects later. The Sir Pardue method is used. Objects are made out of gold and silver also. Same technique for gold and silver objects. Lead was also sometimes used. And the bronze dancing girl in herself is a very good expression of this methodology. Now, this doesn't mean that they were only producing copper objects. They also produce what are called stone and terracotta. What is terracotta? Terracotta is nothing but dried clay. You can also use it if you want to. Take clay, you make it a little bit damp, give it shape, keep it in the sun, and what you will get is dried clay, which is nothing but terracotta. Which is nothing but terracotta. So use of the stone which they used to use is called ceatite. Ceatite is the technical name of a stone called soapstone, and we have multiple ceatite structures also. But the most ubiquitous, which is the most common thing which we found, are terracotta images, because terracotta was available everywhere. So when we talk about the bearded priest or the mother goddess figure, they represent two different examples. This is ceatite and this is terracotta. Ceatite, as you can see, is a little bit harder but very good to carve. Terracotta is something which you will find in everyday objects, and this is something which we see everywhere, from elephant to bulls to fox. And you can see they had games also. What is this? What is this? Dice. And over and above that, you can see here, this used to have in your school pencil boxes and in very standard things. It's that game in which you put a small round object and you have to go through the maze. Same thing here. We have figures also made out of terracotta. See, obviously, you can't show these things to the examiner, but I'm trying to show you these things because you need to understand what we call as craft diversity. So you can see there is multiple diversity in material, copper, ceatite, terracotta, but the expressions are equally diverse. From everyday figurines to animals to games, they were in themselves very, very good in craft production. But the most celebrated thing which came out of the Harappan civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, are their seals made out of ceatite. One thing very clear, these are seals, not currency. And what we believe is that mostly they were stamps which were put on the merchandise, or we'll say rather the commodities, stamps on commodities which were exported, Now we don't know what this means. Why don't we know what this means? What is the reason for not knowing what this means? These are inscriptions. We don't know what they mean. Why? Yes, very good. Script has not been deciphered till this point, so we don't know what they mean. But made out of ceatite, we know that. Polished surface, yes. Could be square, could be rectangular. In certain cases, they were sometimes circular also. Different animals are represented, and now we come to this unicorn thing, which I will come to. Now, script is undeciphered. Humpless bull is also depicted, which is a bull without the hump. Purpose is not yet known, but we know that it is not for very simply the concept of currency, not currency. Now we come to this very celebrated unicorn seal. Now there's a problem. And the problem is that this is again British misinterpretation. Because do unicorns exist? What is a unicorn? What is a unicorn? What is a unicorn? It's a fictional character, but what is it? It's a one-horned horse. One-horned horse. Now, firstly, when you look at this animal, does it seem like a horse to you? Now, it's more like a bull. It's a humpless bull. But you understand one thing. How do I explain this? And for this, I will show you something. Right? I am standing like this right now. I am standing like this right now. How many hands do I have? When you look at it like this, how many hands do I have? Seems like one, but it is two. So when I make a 3D object in 2D, it seems like I have one. So very simply, this horn is nothing but basically this, the one here, second here. But because it is superimposed on one another, it is seeming that there is one. Now, unfortunately, the British called it unicorn. So for the purpose of the examination, we have no other option but to call it a unicorn. But I hope you get the point why it is actually not a unicorn. There is nothing called a unicorn which exists in the world. There is nothing which is a unicorn. This is just a misappropriation, misinterpretation of a concept which we call as 2D-ness in or 3D image in 2D. 3D image in 2D. Clear, everybody? Why do we call it the unicorn seal? And it is basically not a unicorn seal, but the Alexander Cunningham and John Marshall, for them, these mythical creatures had some meaning, and that is why they're called unicorn seal. Clear? Yes, no? How can we say that seals are not currency? See, if seals were currency, then their numbers would be higher. Second thing would be that then you would find Mesopotamian currency and what we call as the currency of, firstly, Mesopotamia also was barter system. So it cannot make sense that you were giving seals and taking barter. So the prevailing model was barter system. And if they have an understanding of making 1, 2, 3, then why would you make such a complicated currency? And more than that, currency as a concept as it is does not exist. It's not just specific to Indus Valley civilization. It is specific to all civilizations at this point of time. So one thing is very sure, they're not currency because their numbers would be higher. And see, until unless this actually says I am a currency, we will speculate it isn't. There have been multiple interpretations, but we believe more this is basically like the stamp. It's like an emblem. And it makes more sense because the words are reversed. So when I will stamp it, it comes as the right side in that regard. If I will stamp it, it becomes the right side. Specifically, the animals tell us that the orientation is for stamping. But as I said, all speculation. If the inscription says it is currency, then we will call it currency. But right now, we don't call it currency because it would not make sense that Mesopotamia barter civilization would then take currencies from the Harappans, and then trade would not have happened in that regard. Getting my point? It's about the larger picture here, which is not adding up in that regard. Yeah. Yes? Are you able to make out why am I not calling it currency? See, in a lot of very standard books, which are like very old books, not very old books. They will call them currencies, but they aren't. That is now a historical consensus that they aren't what we call as IITians are still deciphering this inscription. Yes, that has been going on for 5 years. 5, 6 years, AI and machine learning has been used, but nothing is happening. So once it is deciphered, we will talk about it. As of right now, when you will give UPSC, it has not been deciphered. Yes? Okay. Now, the Harappans also were very good bead makers, in the way that bead and jewelry was something which they made quite a lot. This is gold jewelry for you. And both men and women used to wear some form of jewelry, from necklace to amulets to finger rings to basic griddles, which is nothing but on the head and on the neck. They were very good, what we call as jewelers. But this was a more rare commodity. What we find more is these beads and these very simple, straightforward bracelets. Different precious stones were used: amethyst, jasper, crystal, lapis lazuli. But what is more interesting is that they had a very interesting way of piercing it. In the sense, if there was a bead, they had the technology to make holes in it without actually, in a way, destroying the bead itself, which tells us that they had certain type of drilling technique, piercing technique, which was hard and very precise at the same point of time. Now the question would be that this is the story of the basic story of what we call as Harappan craft. We find Harappan pottery also. When it comes to pottery, you can see multiple types of potteries are there. Their purpose could be from storage to water drinking to, these are called pierced potteries. In this, they used to put water, and then it used to come like out in all directions. But what is more important and interesting is the motifs or the symbols which they used. And you can see that when it comes to symbols, it is both geometry and animals plus plants. So what was absent with regards to the Harappans is what we call as human figures or symbols, what we call as anthropomorphic figures. But from plants to animals and plants together to random geometry, there is multiple types of representation. Now, before we go to the real question based understanding or where the question actually comes from, what do you do with all this information? So for the Indus Valley civilization, what you need to do is that simply understand three basic points: material diversity, which is what was used to make it. Second would be craft diversity, what was made. And technique diversity, which is how it was made. You can get a question with regards to any combination, material craft or technique craft. When we talk about material, it is terracotta, copper, bronze, ceatite. When we talk about craft, it could be beads, it could be seals, it could be everyday objects, it could be figurines. And when it comes to the technique, lost wax technique, piercing technique, carving technique. Now, if I ask a question on any of these aspects, will you be able to write 150, 250 word answers? Which is that what was the material diversity, or what was the diversity when it came to material, craft, and technique in the Indus Valley civilization? Yes. Piercing means to pierce. You get piercing in your ears. Make holes. Make holes. Are we clear with regards to Indus Valley civilization? Because then I go to post-Mauryan and Mauryan, and then things become interesting. Anybody has any issue till this point? Come on. Anybody has any issue till this point? No issues. Okay. Carving was used in seals and motifs, sir. Yes. Samitha, both. Carving is on everything, on the basic copper and even bronze objects, be it seals, be it beads, everywhere there is small carvings. Okay. Now we jump from Indus Valley civilization to the period when it comes to Mauryan, post-Mauryan, during which period, specifically in the post-Mauryan period, three schools of art emerged, or we can call three schools of sculpture emerged. And that would be Gandhara, Mathura, Amravati. Schools again means that though they're connected in a way, there is certain type of interaction. They have certain characteristics which make them unique. Now, let's talk about these three. First, when it comes to their context. Gandhara, Mathura, Amravati. I'll in the end give you a table in which I will summarize all three comparatively. Now, Gandhara automatically means north-western sector. Gandhara, Takshila, Indus sector. And if I call it the post-Mauryan period, which dynasties would have existed in the northwestern sector? Use your ancient India information and tell me. The Kushanas, Indo-Greeks and Shakas. Very good. So in a way, the Indo-Greeks, the Sakas and the Kushanas are the ones who were very close to this Gandhara sector. Mathura, on the other hand, would be northern India, the plains of UP, Bihar, etc. So, if I have to again discuss their dynasties, what dynasties would have been there? What dynasties in the northern sector? Come on. Shungas, Indo-Greeks, and Kushanas. And Amravati is Deccan and southern sector. So it would have been Satavahanas and Sangam polities. Are you able to understand the political context? Is the political context making sense? Yes. Now, Mathura school emerged first. Gandhara school emerged second. Amravati last to develop. But Gandhara school was more popular and became more mature before Mathura. So though it came after Mathura, it became very, very popular, very mature in its basic styles, even before Mathura was able to, in a way, settle down. When we talk about religions, Gandhara was Buddhism and Greek gods. And this is Mahayanic Buddhism. Mathura is Mahayanic Buddhism, Brahmanism, the concept of Hinduism in that regard, Jainism, and secular political images. But Amravati again is Hinayanic Buddhism. This means that idols of Buddha will be found in which schools? Idols of Buddha will be found in which schools? Idols of Buddha. Very good. Gandhara and Mathura. Because Amravati is Hinayanic Buddhism, which means that Buddha is a good teacher, but there will be no idol worships. There will be Jatak stories, there will be symbolism of Buddha, but Buddha in its true picture will be in Gandhara and Mathura. Will be in Gandhara and Mathura. Here, idols of Buddha were very common. And last point before I now start to go into these schools and show you these images is that Gandhara had strong Greco-Roman influence. Had very strong Greco-Roman influence. Mathura initially developed as indigenous, but later got influenced by Gandhara But this is fully indigenous school. No foreign elements. Can anybody tell me why is there Greco-Roman influence on Gandhara? It's a very straightforward, simple, very logical question. The answer is already in front of you. Very good. Because of the location and Indo-Greek presence. The Indo-Greeks and their geography and their presence in this sector made sure that Greek influence in Gandhara was quite a lot. So now let's talk about, anybody has any issue here? Anything which is written here? Amravati, Gandhara, Mathura? Anyone? No? Okay. So let's talk about, therefore, Gandhara. Because if we understand Gandhara, it will be easier for us to understand Mathura. So let's talk about Gandhara School of Art. Gandhara School of Art. Now, when we talk about Gandhara School of Art, we know the location. Location is northwestern sector. We know the religions, which is Buddhism, Mahayanic, which is Mahayanic. Mahayanic Buddhism, and what we call as Greek gods. We also know the dynasties, which is Indo-Greeks, Saka, Kushana. But now we have to see techniques and features, which is that what were the Greco-Roman influences on the Gandhara school. For that, let's talk about the images. There are 2 to 3 images which you need to see. This is called starving Buddha. This is called meditating Buddha. This is called standing Buddha, copper. And this is a secular image of Buddha while standing. But again, this is meditating Buddha. Again, Buddha you can see in his Siddhartha form and then in Buddha form. So there are certain things which make a Gandhara art Gandhara. See, the first and foremost thing is called the halo. These are all Greco-Roman features of Gandhara, which they basically picked up from the images of Apollo, of Zeus, of Athena. These are Greek gods which are represented. One is called halo. Second is called curly hair, or what we call as wavy hair. Thereafter, the clothing, which is draping, which is Greek way. Thereafter, one more interesting thing, elongated ears, then half closed eyes, Then there is also something called forehead lines, forehead lines. But the most interesting, stoic face or expression or expressionless or neutral expression. It's called stoic face. No real emotion on his face. No emotion. You see, we can go one step further, which is, for example, halo, curly hair, elongated ears, forehead lines, meditative or half closed eyes, Greek clothing or draping, and this image in itself is considered a masterpiece because of the level of detail, where you can even see the nerves and the veins of Buddha, which is starving Buddha. But again, expressionless or stoic face. The simple point is that Gandhara sculpture used a bluish gray, sometimes black sandstone, and in order to give this detailing, this detailing are done by stucco. Stucco is nothing but Greek plaster. You would have seen it if you're sitting in a room where there is a little bit of finishing in the room. It's called plaster of Paris, POP. But POP doesn't exist, obviously. But the Greek plaster is called stucco. So the level of detailing which you see from the bones on his shoulder to the nerves and the every smallest of smallest detail when it comes to his veins, the eyes have gone inside the eye sockets because of the meditative position. This is starving Buddha. This is the expression of Greek techniques on Gandhara. Greek images always had this type of what we call as very highly detailed images. Highly detailed images. So again, halo to show a sense of divinity, curly hair to show a certain type of influence which comes from the Greek sector. There is forehead lines, the half closed eyes, there is no expression, the elongated ears are there. The draping which you see here, the way he's wearing this cloth is a very Greek thing. And this is not just in one, but all images. All images. In this, the halo has fallen. In the process of its conservation, the halo was broken, but there was a halo here. Curly hair, elongated ears, half closed eyes, forehead lines, expressionless, draping. Same, this is called Greek jewelry. What he is wearing is a very Greek jewelry thing. When he's standing also, again no expression, half closed eyes, curly hair, draping. The simple point is that all images from this sector had a certain standard feature. Are you able to understand what are these features together, or what are they? What are the markers of Gandhara school? Because you need to know them. So when we talk about the Gandhara school of art, which flourished between 1st to 4th century CE, Mahayanic Buddhist, and had very strong influence of old Greek school of art, patronized by the Indo-Greeks. Buddhist iconography is inspired by Apollo and other things. Takshila to Bamiyan Buddha, which was destroyed by the Taliban. These are all expressions of Buddha and Bodhisattvas. Bluish gray and sometimes black stone is used. Stucco is used to do the detailing. And these are very realistic images, very natural, and they depict no emotion, which is again a very Greek thing. They lack, or the images lack higher level of spiritualism, which is to connect to God itself, but they have a very strong meditative vibe to them. And the Greco-Roman effect on Gandhara school could be the halo behind the head of Buddha, wavy hair, closed eyes, earlobes, forehead lines, ornamentation, and draping. Now, in the examination, you can show this. You can show this, but there's a way of showing it. There's a way of showing it. I want you to make an image. Get a piece of paper and pen. Make an image which is Gandhara school. I give you 2 minutes. There's a hard way of doing it. There's an easier way of doing it. There's something which you can do in the examination in 30 seconds, but I want you to represent all of these things in an image which you can make in the examination. Come on. This is Gandhara school, the most extensive one. When I'll give you the comparative perspective, it becomes even more easier. So come on, represent and tell me. Because what a lot of you will do is you will try to make Buddha in a lot of detail. That is what you don't have to do. So I'll tell you how to make this in the examination. It will bring a smile on the face of the examiner also, and will fetch you a little bit of marks. Okay. Everybody has to do it. Come on. Once you're done, you write yes. Done. Okay. Now, the easiest way of doing it, the easiest way is take your WhatsApp, no DP, make a halo behind it, drape it, add curly hair, big elongated ears, forehead lines, and then just mark it. Draping, elongated ears, halo, wavy hair, forehead lines, no expression, and half closed eyes. If you have time, you can make those eyes. I'll make it again. It's very easy, very straightforward. Easiest to make. Easy. It's not the most beautiful. It doesn't represent Buddha. Sure. But it does the job. It does the job, which is that it at least gives you a unique answer, because you have tried to do something which is little bit different. And this will for sure make the examiner stop at this page for 1 second for sure. If I'm going through a question paper in which everybody is writing the same answer, and I come across this type of image, it should create a certain type of effort which the student has put through to make it more interactive. Yes, Avni, that's a very good connection which you've made, which is Avni saying, meaning that the paintings in Ajanta caves can be a result of Greco-Roman influence due to half-closed meditative eyes. Yes, which we are going to come to when we talk about Mathura, because it was the Mathura artists who went and made the Ajanta sector. And in Mathura, you will see, initially they will not have the features, but they will start to see. We will start to have two phases in Mathura. So you are saying, Chinu, what got cancelled? Senior Telangana State PCS Group 1 got cancelled. Just write the full form, right? So, very simply, does anybody have a problem in identifying and marking the Greco-Roman influences on Gandhara? Anybody? I'll give you a table in which we'll have a comparative perspective. Is this making sense to you? Because I want to talk about Mathura. Yes, no, I have to say something. Come on. Yes, sir. See, you will not find this in standard books. Again, written in very confusing way. Nitin Singhania got confused himself also. So you have to be very clear of what we are doing. Okay, now let's talk about Mathura. Let's talk about Mathura. Mathura. Mathura, School of Art. Anybody wants to say something? Forehead के साथ forehead lines Payal. There was a question that specifically has Roman influence. Some stats exact same thing what to need to be written. UPSC asks a straightforward question in that. Straightforward question in that. What are the Greco-Roman or Roman influences on Gandhara art? Straightforward question. A very standard question comes from this area. And in the paper, in the prelims examination, you will again see standard questions, because there can be no too much playing with this concept with regards to this. Okay. Group 1 prelims of Telangana state PCS got cancelled. Second time. Standard with state PCSs. There have been no vacancies coming for the railway sector. In railways, there will be no vacancies coming through for Group C and D also. Something which happens before an election year generally happens in state PCS. BPSC 3 times happened. Okay. Now let's talk about Mathura. When we talk about Mathura, we know the location, which is northern India. We know that it is the first to develop also. First to develop. We also know one more thing, which is that Mathura school, in a way, has two phases. No Gandhara or Greco-Roman influence, and Gandhara features start to emerge. Can anybody tell me which dynasty would have brought these Greco-Roman influences with them into the Mathura school? There's one dynasty which is through the northwestern sector to the eastern sector. Very good. The Kushanas, very good. Kushanas were able to capture the whole sector itself. So they bring in the Greco-Roman influence. Kushana period, before Kushanas. Further, there is Buddhist, Jain, Brahmanical, and political secular sculpture. Now, let's see the two contrasting concepts of Mathura. And that can be seen here. First, let's mark the non-Gandhara original features, which would be indigenous. That you can see Abhaya Mudra, which is nothing but Ashirvad Mudra. Abhay Mudra. You can see it here also. Then expression on face, which you can see smiling. You can see here, smiling. First Abhay Mudra, second, and then non curly hair, which is that there is no curly hair at this point of time. Thereafter there is difference in clothing, mostly bare chested, and as you can see, subsidiary images. But in the picture which you see, and as we know, a very standard thing, a red sandstone, it's called white spotted red sandstone, very standard thing which comes from Mathura. But as you can see, there are Gandhara elements which are also showing, and you can see in the later period curly hair emerges, elongated ears, further draping, and half closed eyes. So halo. Now can you see that how Mathura is an amalgamation of indigenous features along with Gandhara features? That in certain images in certain images. There could be no halo, but later halo came through. Subsidiary images were there. Abhay Mudra was integrated with the half closed eyes, draping, curly hair, elongated ears. And in a way, there is a cultural amalgamation which Mathura shows. So Mathura indigenously develops its standard features, but under Kushanas, it will start to develop features which will be very, very unique to it. Very, very unique to it. And in that regard, their secular images, this is Kanishka, this is Huvishka, brother and rulers of the Kushanas. Unfortunately, this is called the headless because the heads were destroyed over time. But what they show to us is boots, leather clothing, swords. So the uniqueness of the Mathura is that it develops in itself multiple features which are in a way specific to it also, because the secular imagery does not show that. But whenever they take Buddha images, we can see the comparative understanding. Making sense? Is it? Is it making sense? Yes? Yes. Okay. So, when we talk about Mathura, flourished around the Mathura region in the 1st century CE. So, this is first. Began as indigenous, later increased Greek influence under Kushana rule. Extensive use of white spotted red sandstone. First images were of Buddha, later they will start to include Gandhara images also. Calmed, composed Buddha. These Thankars are also represented. Images of Hindu gods are also there. Kings and emperors are also shown, Kanishka and Huvishka. And coats, trousers, high boots represent a certain sense of interesting amalgamation. So Mathura is both indigenous but also has Gandhara influence. Now after this I'll give you a break and then I'll make that the table for you, which is now Amravati, also called Vengi School of Art. Can we discuss Amravati? Can we discuss Amravati? Anybody has Amravati? Any issue with Mathura Gandhara? Yes, no, have to say something? No issues, sir? Very good. So let's then talk about Amravati. Now when we talk about Amravati, Amravati has a very greenish black sandstone. They use greenish black. But there is a very standard thing. No Buddha in human form, but symbols. Can anybody tell me what is this symbol? What is this symbol? You know it. This is the, not the halo, the Dhamma Chakra Parivartana. This is the Dhamma Chakra. This is the Buddhist Chakra. So Buddha is always represented through his different symbols. Elephant. This is called the birth of Buddha. This is Maya giving birth to Buddha, and therefore Buddha can be seen as the elephant who is going to now take incarnation. But there is also one very interesting thing. Because they do not have to concentrate on Buddha, subsidiary images are very beautifully shown. Firstly, they have what are called elongated faces. Over and above that, they are very stretched images, slender, but they tend to give a sense of movement. They give a sense of movement. So if I look at these images, you look at the level of detail in their expression and how they are standing, you can see a sense of movement. So because Buddha does not need to be represented. Subsidiary images have become very interesting. So they are patronized by the Satvahanas and the Ishwakus, Krishna Godavari region, Amravati Nagarjuna Konda sector itself, predominantly made out of white marble, but greenish white marble is also used. Images are naturalistic when it comes to human form, animal forms, or floral forms. Give a sense of movement and energy. You can see this scene shows a certain sense of movement. Human figures are slender and elongated to show again a flexibility of body. The faces are oval, sharp, expressions are given very well. Animals such as the this is nothing but crocodile. Crocodile. Even the scales are shown. Emphasis on natural element, stories of Buddha, as we know, Jataka stories. Jatak scenes such as Shibi, Nagiri, and the Chandana or the Chandaka Jataks are actually shown. Buddha is mostly represented by his symbols. Something standard. Gupta Sarnath will see later, Pallava later. But what I need to do is, I need to give you a comparative perspective, a table which you will make in the examination if needed, and for your revision. But before I do that, is everybody with me? No issues. It's exactly 1.5 hours. I'll give you a break, and we can then look at the table and end this section itself. Gandhara, Amravati, and the Gandhara, Amravati, and Mathura are the most standard questions which come in the examination. Yes. So let's come back at 11:40, and when we do, I'll give you the basic summary, and then we can move on to the later schools and end this subsection itself. Done? Okay. So I'll see you at 11:40. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Can we now summarize these three together? Is this making sense? Anybody wants to call? Anybody wants to ask something? Something which is not making sense. Come on. Okay. Yes. A lot of you are very silent today. It's like because I called you early, that is why. 2 hours early on Saturday and you are sleeping. Because we are writing, sir. Oh, very committed students. Very good, very good, very good. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Indo-Greek Saka Kusana. Mhm. Bluish grey sandstone and stucco. Thereafter, Mathura is white spotted red sandstone. And thereafter, Amravati is greenish then Forehead lines. Wavy hairs. Anything I missed? Halo, elongated ears, half closed eyes, stoic, expressionless face, draping, forehead lines, wavy hairs. Anything missing here? Yes or no? Anything missing? Northwestern sector, Indo-Greek, Sakas, Kushanas, Mahayanic Buddhism, Greek images, bluish gray and sandstone and stucco. Greco-Roman influences, half closed eyes, elongated ears, halo, stoic, expressionless. This is the one which is a little bit messed up. Expressionless face, draping and jewelry, along with forehead lines and wavy hair. Marble, sometimes mostly sandstone. Okay. Anybody has any issue in Gandhara? Come on. Gandhara, anybody has any issue? No. Now comes phase 1, phase 2. Features. Non-wavy hair. Abhay Mudra. No halo. Expression on Buddha face. And one more point. Subsidiary figures. Phase 2, wavy hair, half closed eyes, elongated ears, halo, and then Abhay Mudra, expression on face, bare chested, draping and bare chested. So if you can see, phase 1, phase 2, there is continuity, but there is also a Greco-Roman influence which comes through in phase 2. Thereafter, Amravati is very straightforward. Buddha through symbols. Thereafter, elongated bodies of humans, oval faces, and naturalism. You have animals, humans, and plants in Jataka stories. Subsidiary images are detailed. Sense of movement in images. Anybody now has any issue in this type of question? No? If there's a comparative in any three, you'll be able to write it down. What made Gandhara art more popular than Mathura? Because the Indo-Greeks were very, in a way, pushed the Gandhara school more. And while they got a lot of royal patronage, it became more popular. Okay. Can we now go to the subsidiary ones? These are the ones which emerged later. And we can then, after we do this, we do some certain questions, and we will then move to dance and puppetry. So the slide once more. Yes. Can we move forward? Have to say something? Yes. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, now, let's talk about the Gupta school, which comes through. See, the Gupta and the Sarnath school, there are two which are overlapping to each other. Gupta is the bigger school, Sarnath is a subset of it. And in the Gupta school, the art starts to become more and more complex, which is reflected in the temples. Takes a lot of cue from Mathura and Amravati school. And now you have more contemplated spiritual images, which are basically based on the larger idea of Buddha, the larger idea of Hinduism, rather. And with Hinduism coming through, the Bhagavad cult coming through, or the Bhagavad Puranic based Hinduism coming through, the point was that temple building will become very, very important. And now, within the temple building, this sculpture art is going to become very standard. But during the Gupta period, same during the period of the Gupta art itself, we also have a Sarnath school, which was specific to Sarnath. It will keep the Buddhist school alive. And their most important feature, very, very, very important, the most important feature is cream colored sandstone. If you ever see a image which has been made in cream color, which is this yellowish color sandstone, it has to be Sarnath. They will keep Buddhist art alive, and Buddha is shown in different mudras, slender, very graceful images, downcast eyes, which we already saw, introspection, ominiscence, which is again this time of meditative concept itself, and draping, even fully dressed and draped. Again, you can see that Gandhara, Mathura mix in that regard. And by the time we come to the post-Gupta period, the sculpture art is now going to start to move towards the south. And it will rather be the Pallavas which will take up the sculpture art. But we also saw at Elephanta, at Alora, at Mahabalipuram, sculpture had now become very big. So just to give you a basic idea of this basic chronological order, I'm going to add it here only. You have post-Mauryan, Amravati, Gandhara, and Mathura. And what happens is that Amravati, Mathura influence goes through in the Gupta school. It is again in the Gupta period, but at the same point of time, Gandhara, Mathura come together to produce the Sarnath school. The Sarnath school. And therefore, they are parallel to each other coming in the Gupta period. And thereafter, all of this will go to the Pallava, etc. period, which is post-Gupta. How does it make sense? How they are placed vis-a-vis each other. How they mix and match to very simply produce Pallava art. But when we talk about Pallava art had a problem. This is called Arjuna's penance. It's a very celebrated descent of Ganga, Arjuna's penance, at Mahabalipuram. Can anybody tell me what is the issue in this image? Can anybody tell me the issue in this image or this sculpture? It is narrative form, sure. But there are technical issues in this image. What are the technical issues? Very good. Cluttering. Neha. Hardeep, scale. Border. Rock can't be carved easily. Rock cut, mixed. See. Firstly, it is cluttering. Too much has been pushed into the image. The other is issue of scale, which you can already see. The elephants and the temple is smaller than the elephant itself. If I zoom a little bit more, you'll see that how there is too much cluttering. Too many images, too many elements were added to this Arjuna's penance. Though they are very well carved, but the issue of scale and cluttering remains. And this is very specific to Pallava. In Pallava, Buddhist tradition ideas are taken, monumental but linear. This horizontal nature, which is carving on stone, is the problem. Rather than making sculpture, they're making horizontal images. And that is where the issue comes through. And the problem issue of scale, and the concept of cluttering is there. But the Pallavas, rather than just taking rock cut architecture, which we already saw in the form of the Pancharath, will later abandon this concept of using sculpture as a form of making temples, and they will revive back a technique which the Cholas will take it to the zenith, which is lost wax technique. The Cholas are the ones who bring back the lost wax technique and now start to make bronze sculptures, which till today are every thief's dream, because Chola bronze sculpture was out of the world itself, and they were so good at making metal sculptures that they were even able to make an alloy of 5 different metals, Panchloha. Thanjavur will emerge until today is a very important place for Chola bronze images. We will have the most celebrated Nataraja image, which will be considered the most important expression of Chola iconography, very beautifully expressed in the G20 also in front of the Bharat Mandapam itself. And this is the first time we see the Nataraj image. The image of Nataraj will emerge at this point of time itself. In a way, it becomes a very good starting point because it is an expression of dance. It is the first time we see expression of dance in form of sculpture. The dancing girl had now given way to a very beautiful form of expression. And when we talk about Chola imagery, Sembian Mahadevi, who was one of the widowed Chola queens, she was a very big patron of Chola sculpture and art, one of the best collectibles in the world. The dancing figure of Shiva, the Nataraja image, will fully develop under Chola period. And thereafter, the Chola iconography, the Shiva iconography will be taken forward by the Vijayanagara state, where the Vijayanagara period, not just sculpture was made out of bronze. Krishna Devaraya with his 2 queens, Turulamba and Chinadevi, they were shown in life-size bronze sculptures inside the Tirupati temple itself. Till today, in the Tirupati temple, you will find life-size images of Krishna Devaraya and his 2 queens in order to show their perpetual devotion to God. So the king standing in a Namaskara mudra is a very, very interesting way in which we can, in a way, see the whole sector, what we call as culminate. So we start with the lost wax technique technique of the Harappans, who were only able to produce maximum bronze dancing, a very small image that ways. That was taken to the next level by the Cholas, who are now producing Nataraja image, which is in itself a masterpiece. But when we come to Vijayanagara rulers were now making bronze statues of kings and queens. This shows you the craftsmanship and the technological development, but somehow still by the lost wax technique. This is the beauty of the technique called lost wax technique, that it could be used in 2600 also, it could be used in 2600 BC, it could be used in 1000 C, and it could be used in 1300, 1400 C. That between 4,000 years, same technique persists. In between, we do get what we call as sandstone sculpture, which will first start in the three schools, the Mathura, Amravati, and Gandhara schools, and thereafter go into temple architecture. And temple architecture, in a way, is going to again culminate at the Cholas, where the temple architecture is going to show sculpture, Nataraja. So if you see, we have in a way come back to the point of Cholas where we started, in a way, which is lost wax technique, come back to lost wax technique. In a way, temple architecture, which starts after the Mathura, Amravati and Gandhara school, will be zenith, will be reaching its zenith under Cholas. Vijayanagara will take it to a next level altogether. So with this, we finish the Pallava is Pallava. If you want to add, sure, Pallava here. With this, we have finished sculpture module. In sculpture, there will be a question like this. I'll show you a question. I should have a question somewhere here. One second. I should have the mains questions here. I'll show you a realistic question which came in the period after this. 1 second. 147. 3 festivals. 1 second. We have to cover all of this today. I'm looking for the previous year question. Mains. No, it's in the next tomorrow's module. Okay, no issues. I'll write the question for you. I'll write the question for you. In the examination, a straightforward question came. Discuss the Greco-Roman. These people are enough. You have to just revise from Nitin Singhania. The question was, discuss the Greco-Roman influence on Gandhara school. Standard mains question came. I'll show it to you tomorrow also. I want to do the previous year questions of prelims and then move to dances. But can I now say that the big four are done? Architecture, painting, the concept of sculpture, Bhakti Sufi. 4 very big topics. This is where we started our story in the morning, that how we can divide the whole syllabus into certain areas. These are the big 4. From here, you will always get very heavy standard questions. Thereafter, we are now moving to the areas which are little bit prelims oriented, and then we'll mix and match it with mains oriented topics. So I'll show you the mains questions tomorrow. I want to do the prelims question today. But before that, anybody wants to say anything, wants to call, wants to do anything with regards to the big 4 which we've done? I've enabled the live call feature. If it works, why not? Anybody wants to say anything till this point? Any issue, any big issue with architecture, any big issue with painting, sculpture? Because now the orientation changes a little bit. This is the heaviest section of all. Heaviest of all, which is architecture, painting, sculpture, Bhakti Sufi. In a way, we've covered a major chunk of Nitin Singhania also. Nitin Singhania, sculpture and architecture is one chapter, 92 pages. Then the next big chapter is painting. That is also done. Bhakti Sufi is also done. Now there are smaller chapters. Now, can I very simply say anybody has any issue? You have to say yes or no right now, because then our orientation changes. Anybody wants to ask anything with regards to architecture, painting, sculpture, Buddhism, Bhakti, Sufi, because we have already done this also. Buddhism, Jainism already we've done, except for the literature part, we've already done in ancient. So, is this all clear? Hoysaleshwara temples were in the news. I know that, Abhinav. Tomorrow I will discuss the UNESCO tangible heritage. I will discuss Shanti Niketan and Hoysaleshwara temples. Don't worry about that. That is a separate issue altogether. Vijayanagara reached zenith in bronze imagery. Chola reached zenith in temple architecture. That's a right way of saying it. But we believe that Chola were the ones who, in a way, matured the lost wax technique so much that the Vijayanagara were able to use it. Vijayanagara, in that regard, is in that way what we call as simply the concept of zenith of temple, and both in a way bronze, but Cholas are temple for sure. Vijayanagara is a logical corollary, a step forward to Chola in that regard. Okay, Vivek, what should I recap? You have joined at 12:05. 2 hours into the class you've joined. Right now I can say Vivek Bhushan joined. When Hardeep said no before it, Takdeep said no issue after it. Now, what do you want me to revise with you? Recap the whole syllabus? Can I discuss films questions? Sir, class was from 12 p.m. No, it wasn't. Yesterday also in world history you were there. Multiple times I said 10 a.m., 10 a.m., 10 a.m., 10 a.m. There's an email which would have gone to you saying it is 10 a.m. Your dashboard shows 10 a.m. So you would have to watch the video of the last 2 hours. Notification was also there. So everybody was there for the past 2 hours. Don't make this excuse that you did not know. Yesterday you were with me in world history, right? Text message also came. Subhash is saying. Vivek, you were with me in world history. Yes or no? I know you were there because you type in all caps. So I know your way of writing a comment. So check your email, check your text message, check the recording of yesterday's class for world history, and you will realize that I said that it is from 10 to 8. So I will now, let's take the previous year questions, a little bit of questions which I want you to, which we were not able to take. This we've already done. This we've already done. This we did not do. Consider the, yes, but usually it is from 12. Sure, why not? Usually it is always from 12. Yes, totally perfect. Factually, totally correct. 100 out of 100. But it is today from 10 to 8. Was told to you multiple times. So just watch the video again once the part A is over. Okay. Consider the following historical places. At least this is what I expect from you, is that as a UPSC aspirant, you are at least aware of what is happening around you. Multiple messages went through to you. Last class also I said in class. In yesterday's class I also said, but that doesn't really matter. Okay. Now, consider the following historical places. Ajanta, Lepakshi, Sachi Stupa. Which of the above are also known for mural paintings? This is what I was not able to take last time. You will... I'm giving you what? You want a minute? No, 30 seconds enough for this. Come on. 53%, 38%, 63. 53 totally correct. The people who have omitted Lepakshi. Why have you omitted Lepakshi? See, stupas have no mural paintings. We already know that. Ajanta caves, I showed you the murals. Didn't I show you Lepakshi? What is the most important feature of Lepakshi? What is the most important feature of Lepakshi murals? Come on, tell me. Samita, Subhash, Hardeep. Come on. Very good. Amita, absence of primary colors. Which is that color which is always not there? Which is the absence of primary colors? Very good, Avni. Arundhati, very good. Subhash, what is that color? Very good. Blue. Blue is absent. So the answer is 1 and 2. So the people who have answered A, either you need revision, or you are not paying attention, or you overthought. If it is revision and you need to read again, sure. Overthinking, it should not be. Because stupa is very logically removed. In stupa, I never showed you any painting. Mural is any form of painting which happens on a big surface. It could be ceiling, which is Lepakshi. It could be caves, which is Ajanta. But for anybody who answered A, can you please tell me what was the logic? Because if I get to know the logic, I will then not teach you in that way. What was the logic which was used? If it's revision, that's a separate issue altogether. What was the logic of answering A? Revision. Okay. So that is not an issue. That is something which you need to do. Nothing really difficult. Okay. Yes. Who among the following Mughal emperors, 2019, shifted emphasis from illustrated manuscripts to album and individual portraits? This question should be slam dunk in front of you. Perfect. 77% totally correct, which is a very good number that way. Illustrated manuscripts, Akbar is known for. Tutinama, Hamzanama, individual portraits. Jahangir. Jahangir is the one who shifted from illustrated narrative manuscripts. Manuscripts mean original copy of anything. Manuscript is original copy of anything. So narrative technology, narrative illustrative manuscripts, original manuscripts were Akbar's thing. Illiterate, very good. Avni, if you can remember it that way. And individual portraits is Jahangir. He loved individual portraits and therefore Jahangir. Now you see, this is a very recent question. Is this a difficult question? It just needs your basic understanding of art and culture. Not out of this world, not too difficult. Now, this we've already done. This 2018. The well-known painting Bani Thani belongs to the Bundi, Jaipur, Kangra, Kishangarh school. Very easy again. This everybody should get 100%. I'll do the 2023 and 22 together. 23% and 17%. I hope you need just revision. Bundi and Jaipur. Jaipur, I showed you the Ganesha image. Bundi, I showed you Krishna and you what we call as the Govardhan Parvat. Kishangarh school, the Mona Lisa, or Mona Lisa is the bunny thani of the world. Yes. So Kishangarh school, very straightforward question. No issues, no issues, Abni. You can watch the video later, not an issue. Okay. Now we'll take a 5-minute breather here, and we'll now start first dance. Then we will move to puppetry, and then we'll go to festivals. So 5 minutes break. We come back at 12:25, and when we do come back, we will now change the taste. Dance is mains and prelims both. These two are purely prelims. This is how I actually teach now. One heavy, two small. One heavy, two small. But I'll tell you the reason why these topics are important. Can we come back at 12:25 and start our discussion? One, we will take the break as always. 10 to 1, 2 to 5, and then 5:30 to 8. Yes? Okay. So we'll come back at 12:25. Anybody who did not give any heed to the fact that the class started at 10 today, like Monica has just joined, watch the video again once part A is over. Sculpture as a topic is done. See you at 12:25. There is a calling option in weekend class. Vivek, you can call, but thereafter, if you will be able to pick it up, that is not my guarantee. Ankit, the question, for example, related to Shankara's statue, that will not be about the statue itself. It will be about Shankaracharya. We'll discuss Vishishtadvaita, Advaita in when we'll do 6 schools of philosophy. They've already asked a question of Ramanuja. So the corollary, the basic standard question will be, is his philosophy? That is the basic point. If you remember, we've already discussed Adi Shankara or Shankaracharya. Where did we discuss it? Where did we discuss Shankara? Where have we discussed it? Yes, very good. Bhakti Sufi. So now I have to discuss with you what is Advaita, Vishishta Advaita. That we'll do tomorrow. First, heavy topic will do that only because you need to be fresh for that. Because that topic becomes more like Astha channel than actually UPSC. So I need you to be there. I'll tell you that, Vivek, don't worry. I have enabled. Can anybody send a request for a call to show, or is it not showing to anyone? Is there a feature for call which you have on your doubt section? Yes, sir, it is showing. So Vivek, for some reason it is not showing to you, but Hardeep is telling me it is there. Neha is telling me it is there. Abhinav is saying no. So something is common between you. Never shows to me. Nitin, there's something which either you're joining from the what we call as a website, or which is that you're using it a laptop. Is it a tablet? I have no idea. So Tagdeez is telling me that they are using it. I'm using tablet app. So there's something which is there. This is I've seen last week also. So mobile phone it is showing, tablet it isn't showing. World history it won't show only because it is not for weekday. It is only for weekend. So it is showing for Mayuri. It's showing doesn't show on laptop, sir. Samishta is saying. We'll figure it out. I'll point this out to the team today only. When in lunch period, I'll discuss this. Nirvay is saying that doesn't show on mobile also. So there's something. Either we all are on the different versions of the app, or is it something specific to the server itself? I'll point this out to the team. Don't worry about that. Also doesn't show on tablet, but that can't be true. Some of you are saying that it is on tablet. Some of you are saying it's not on tablet. Some of you are saying it's on mobile. Some of you are saying it's not on mobile. So it's a mixed. Neha, I know Neha, just send her. Rafia has again called me. I'll call her back, but she's never able to pick up for some reason. Takdiz has called. Neha, I'll call you back once. Don't worry. So again, as I said, Rafia, the call is going to you, but you are not able to pick up. Okay. Neha, I'm calling you. Again ringing, but I think it is not showing to you. There's an issue. I know it's a tech issue. It's a bug that it works on some, it works, doesn't work on some. Neha is always ringing but not picking. That's the issue. I know, Neha. Sometimes it happens. Narendra, I'm calling you now. Is it showing it to you? Well, I'll point this out to the team. That even though you can send a request, it's not showing, or it is showing something like that. So Narendra, you can hear me, right? So he picked up the call, but he cut the call. So okay, we'll see. We'll see. Don't worry. We'll get this sorted. Okay, now let's talk about dance. Everyone's ready? Everyone's here? We'll get this sorted. Don't worry. We'll get this sorted. Yes. Okay. I'll send this exact conversation with them, or I'll send this exact conversation to them, and we'll see what we can do about this. So, festivals, dance, puppetry. We'll start with dance. Now, dances, there are two basic topics within it. One is called classical dance, which there are only 8, and there are folk dances. Now, if you have seen the Nitin Singhania chapter on dances, can anybody tell me which is a bigger section, folk dance or classical dance? Which is the bigger section? Folk. And I will discuss certain folk dances with you. But the questions can only be made, mains questions can only be made from this area. So being smart here, what we will do, we will concentrate and discuss classical dances in a lot of detail. While folk dances, I have a list with me here. But a smart UPSC aspirant will cover folk dances first or in the end of their preparation. First or in the end of their preparation? In the end. Because from this area, you can maximum get one question, one option of one question. And here we apply the concept of input-output. This is a very important concept when it comes to UPSC. It's the concept of input-output. How much output will an input give us decides how much effort we need to push in. For example, folk dance, the input is very high, which is 50, 60, 70 list. And output could be that there could be one question in one option when you match the following, or one question on folk dance. Here, the input does not justify the output. On the other hand, classical dances is an area which is input-output positive. Input is 8, output is mains and prelims question both. Same could be true for folk music and music. Carnatic and Hindustani is worth it. Folk is something which you do not concentrate in the beginning. You don't open the book and now say, I will learn all folk dances today. It is not worth it in the beginning. You have a certain capacity to learn. This is your 100%. A UPSC aspirant firstly forgets that there is a limited capacity to which you can learn. Now, if you will fill up this 100% with just folk dances and folk music, then you are actually using your effort in the wrong direction. That is why we are here for. We are here to tell you what to learn, what not to learn. That I've always done. You would have seen it in ancient and medieval also. I tell you something to learn first and then something to learn second. Same way, folk is something which you can expect when you are in an interview. In an interview context, you will see questions. For example, you will see a question in which you come from a state. For example, you come from Maharashtra. Now they can ask you about the folk dance and folk music of our Maharashtra. So that is about knowing your state, more concentration on classical dances. Do you understand the concept of input-output? That, for example, students, what they do is that there are 2 types of questions which come in environment, which is national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Now, what students do is that because one year they randomly asked in which state a national park was, they start to learn each and every national park. That is still manageable. But there are 100 plus wildlife sanctuaries. There, the input-output doesn't justify. So keep this in your mind when you prepare. Because in polity also, some students, what they do, start to learn each and every article of the Constitution. Every article of the Constitution. 29 AFG. They will start to learn 295 AF. The subsections also. Not worth it. There is a line where you have to understand, can there be a question? Can there not be a question? Understand this point, that when we talk about input output in UPSC, your input should justify your output, or the output should justify input. Is this clear? Because this is something in art and culture we need to inculcate in ourselves. Yes? Can we now discuss the concept of dance? Okay. Now, when we talk about dances, we have the earliest references in the Bhimbetka paintings. We have the bronze dancing girl in the Harappan civilization. But there are two texts. One is called the Nat Shastra by Bharta Muni, and the other one is called the Abhinay Darpan by Nandi Keshwara. He's the author. Now let's fundamentally discuss dance. See, you could be a bad dancer, you could be a good dancer, but everybody knows how to dance. Why? Because we are genetically coded for that. The as soon as there is a music, a beat which is played, somehow a 5-month child can also link the body with the beat. If there are no classical dances from the home state, then folk dances and folk music are important. Now, very simply, the way our body is tuned is that we dance. But can anybody define dance for me? Can anybody define dance? Can you tell me what is dance? What is dance? What is dance? Come on, tell me. What is dance? Expression. Okay. Any other word? Rhythmic movement of body parts. Expression of love. Rhythmic movement of body parts. Movement of body with expression. Way of art. Way of expressing happiness. Expression of feeling through actions. Express happy. Expressing emotions. Way of enjoying. Okay. But this is rhythmic movement of my body. Is this dance? I'm just moving my hands like this. No. When I walk, there's a rhythmic movement. My hands and my feet move together. So if somebody walks, you say dance kar raha hai. When somebody walks, or somebody is sleeping, or somebody is writing, or somebody is running, do you say dance? This is dance. Now see the dance of that person. So there are two factions in this class who are saying dance is movement, and one is saying dance is expression. But ironically, dance is both. Without the other, expression without movement is not dance. Movement without expression is not dance. This is how Natya Shastra or Bharata Muni actually described it. He called one Tandava and he called the other one Lasya. Now, first things first, fundamental issue. Please don't read this section out of Nitin Singhania, because somehow he messes up this whole section by saying that Tandava is masculine, Lasya is feminine. That's a very regressive way of understanding dance and even concept of emotion and movement. It's not that men don't have emotions, and it's not that women don't have movement. So he tends to argue that Tandava is the masculine element of dance and Lasya no feminine. See, very simply, Natya Shastra says movement is Tandav. We all do Tandav in our life. We've all done Tandav in our life. In someone else's life also, sometimes. So, movement without expression is Tandav. Lasya is emotion and expression. It is only when Lasya meets Tandava that you get dance, or what we call as Nritya. But we'll not call it Nritya because there's one more differentiation. Lasya and Tandava is dance. Difficult to understand? Emotions and expressions, when come together with Tandav, which is movement, meaning movement plus expression equals to dance. And understand this, Lasya is the overall emotion of dance, which is that it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be about expressing a story. You can also express a story. You can tell a story through dance also. You can tell a story through dance also. So very simply, Lasya is emotion and expression, and Tandava is movement without expression. Anybody's any issue here? No? No? Okay. But Abhinay Darpan by Nandikeshwara went one step forward, and did not divide it into two but three elements. The words which he uses, Nrita, Natya, Nritya. Nrita, Natya, Nritya. Now, Nrita is basic dance steps. Natya is storytelling. Nritya is sentiment and emotion. So what he has done, this is movement or basic steps. This would be similar to what? This is similar to what under Bharta Muni. This is similar to what under Bharta Muni? Very good. It's nothing but Tandava. But Abhinay Darpan opens up Lasya into two elements. The drama, storytelling, and overall message of dance. And this is a sentiment plus emotions plus expressions. So basically, he has split up Lasya into two. He split up Lasya into two. So for him, movement plus purpose plus emotion equals to dance. Equals to dance. This is the interesting story here. This is the interesting story here. Here you can expect a mains question. Here you can expect a mains question where they can ask you what are the basic elements of dance, or what makes a dance, or what are the components, what are the components of dance. And here you have very straightforward Tandava or Nrita and Lasya or Natya or Nritya. These two represent movement without emotion. This represents emotion, storytelling, and expression. And in this is drama and story, and this is emotion and expression. Anybody here who's a dancer, classical dancer, not dancer, dance to Bollywood music, but proper classical dancer, Bharatanatyam, Mohiniyattam, Kuchipudi, Kathak, anybody? Anyone? Kathak. Anyone else? Kathak, Mohiniyattam, Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, you have Satariya, only one. Avni, for you this becomes even more important because this can be asked in the interview. That if you are a dancer, Yashgana, Sridevi, again, equally important. You have to know these elements because Yashgana is a theater tradition more than actually a dance tradition. But remember, for a person who's a practicing, yes, Odissi, very good. Odissi, anybody who is practicing, you need to be very conscious of what you say in the examination interview part. So the interview, they would expect you to know more than what a standard person knows. So you should have an understanding that what is Tandava, what is Nita, what is Lasya, what is Natya, what is Nitya, what are the elements in your dance. I will be telling you that, which is this, what we call as 8 classical dances: Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, Odissi, Manipuri, Kathak, and Satariya. If you practice any of these, you have to know more intricate details because your interview will steer to that place. Because in your hobby, for sure, you will write that I am a Kathak dancer, I am a Bharatanatyam dancer, I am a this dancer, that dancer. So anybody who is a practicing personality, please remember these things. This is true for if you write cricket. And I'm now trying to tell you something which you will not find it, or you will be misled in the internet, which is hobbies. If you write cricket, then understand the game and know the rules and regulations. Know who is Duckworth and Lewis. Understand the physical education part of that. Some people write, I am a cookery. I do cookery. Then the board will ask you, what do you make? They said, Maggie bana leta hu, sir. That is not something which is cookery. Gastronomy, you need to have an understanding of every element of palate, genre, differences in that way how the Chinese or the Thai, Chinese, Japanese food are different. If you write, I do yoga, then again, don't randomly say yoga. Then they will ask you pranayams. Bhastrika, everybody knows. Everybody knows standard which Ramdev taught everyone. You need to know what are the intricacies of it. For example, you say, one of you said gym, yoga master. I'll tell you a story about a yoga master. You want to know a story about a yoga master? Subhash, you want to know a story about a yoga master? See, there was a candidate. It's an old story, Saxena board story. There was a person who knew yoga, good enough in it, but in his hobby, he wrote, like you, yoga master instructor. He wasn't a instructor or a master. He knew yoga, but overconfidence. He said this. Now he reaches Saxena board. And what happens is that as soon as the board chairman's, he says, okay, you are a yoga master. He says, yes, sir. He says, okay, teach the board yoga. Teach the board yoga. We would like to see you practice it and we will try to match you. So he started with this. Everybody does this. But then everybody knows standard stuff. And there was a person who was a practicing yoga, what we call as, he was not a master, but had practiced yoga. Now, obviously he lied. As soon as the board got to know that he lied, more or less the interview was over. So that person got rejected on this only. He put in the effort, gave the second attempt. Now, the story of lying to the board, I will tell you why it is important. He reached the board again. And he again got Saxena board. And as soon as the person, the chairman saw the person, he said, yoga instructor. He said, yoga instructor. And again the same story. 3 times that lie stuck with him. It is only when the 4th time his board changed that he actually cleared the exam. What I mean to say is, never lie on your what we call a DAF 1 and DAF 2 form, detailed application form, after you clear prelims. So for example, one of you wrote gym. Now your body should reflect that you go to the gym. And going to the gym is not just going to the gym. You should know the different levels of gymming which happens. You need to know the different terminologies. You need to know the muscles on which you work. Reading books. Sir, what do you read? Reading books. What do you read? Lakshmikant. That is not reading books. You should know, NCRTs are, this is not reading books. That is clearing the exam. You should know a genre. You should know fiction, non-fiction. If you read non-fiction, basic authors. Fiction, what are the authors? What is the prizes, Booker Prize, which is given to in which genre? Same, playing tennis. What is the breadth of a tennis court? What are the rules? Who are the main practitioners? Watching movies, again, standard. What movie do you watch? Bollywood. That is not a genre. If you watch movies, for example, fiction, non-fictional. Then you watch scary movies or you watch action. Then you need to know what are the types of movies. First genre, first generation, second generation, third generation. What I mean to say is that because we are starting dances and we are going into a zone in which you can be a person who would be practicing that, do not lie on your resume. First on your resume, but more than that, on your DAF 1, DAF 2 form. Cricket, yoga, anything. Then very simply, you have to understand that genre. Music, same thing. This is why when I will do music with you, I will make you listen to music. Because what will allow you to do that, or what will allow it, is that you can maybe develop an interest in that music, and that would allow you to connect with the board itself. Sincerely, what if you've not developed anything? Neha, you are a standard. 99% of you, all UPSC aspirants have no life. So having a hobby in itself is very rare. So when you say that I've not sincerely developed any hobby, then don't write big words. Reading newspaper is a good one. For example, you can write your own area of interest when it comes to, for example, if you paint, if you don't paint, then you can develop something by the time you reach the board itself. Teaching, sure, why not? Teaching is a hobby. If you teach somebody, sure, why not? See, my point to say is that you will not have a time to show certificates. They will check your technicalities. The simple point is that 15-20 minutes you have to prove to themselves, that prove to you, not to yourself but to the board, that you do what you say you are. You can't be a fake person. That's the only thing I'm saying. So Mehndi design is a hobby, sure, why not? You do Madhubani painting, it is a hobby. Everything which I teach you from now, from martial arts to theater to puppetry to anything, is a hobby only. Be honest. That is my only request to you. Right? Be honest. That is what I want from you. Honesty. And we are there to guide you for that also when it comes to writing hobbies. But don't write big words. It can stick with you for a long period and can actually mess up your journey in that regard. So if we are clear about this, we'll take a break, because I did not want to start the classical dances because they are all connected to each other in a way. If when we come back, can we discuss dance, festival, and puppetry? And volunteering is a job that is basically social work. That's called social work. So, but social work, you should know the people who are involved, who are the major activists. What is, know your field. Know your field. That is the only thing I'm trying to say. This is the slide on which we were there. So, non-fiction book. Then, sir, they will ask you non-fiction authors. Do you know what non-fiction actually means? Then, in non-fiction, what is the genre? Non-fiction is a very big genre. Do you read historical books, or do you read anthropological books? Do you read politically? Non-fiction means that basically you're reading academic books. That I doubt that you do. So that the simple point of the matter is, use fiction and then talk about, if you're reading Harry Potter, that's not a bad thing. But know the Harry Potter characters then. Cricket, as I said, rule book should be known to you. That, for example, if you hit the ball and the ball got split up into two, one is caught by a person and one is actually on the ground, will you be out or not? That is the level of questions which can be there. Okay. Yes, Takdiz, you can do that. Okay. Can we take a break? Nirbhay, clear? Ankit, clear? Cricket people. Cricket is a very important thing which everybody writes, and everybody knows about cricket. You should know that. Right? Okay. Yes, sir. Great. So we'll be back at 2:05. I've taken a little bit of time. Have again, Vivek, fiction, what, sir? Fiction is a very big genre. Google it, you will get it. Rather, writing standard fiction means anything is fictional. So from Harry Potter to Twilight series to every book which comes through is fictional only. There's historical fiction also. That is in between non-fiction and fiction. Reading book is a very dangerous thing to write. Then be ready to read that book also. Can't bluff. That is the only point. So we come back at 2:05 and you have a good lunch. We'll take the story forward and we'll now do the smaller topics. So thank you. Take care. See you at 2:05.